Hi there. I hope your day is going so amazing. And I want to talk about why I stopped smoking weed. I'm Kira, and I love to make delicious food and talk about the things in my life that have helped me to evolve. So, welcome. And if you are returning, still welcome to this video. And there are so many reasons why I stopped smoking weed. And I remember I was on a date and this guy told me that I reminded him of a flower that was blooming. And I received that very well. I was like, wow. But I noticed that I wasn't in full bloom. I wasn't fully that vibrant flower, the full flower in all its glory. I was still blooming. And so essentially I stopped smoking flower to become a flower. And the first reason why I stopped is because I stopped during Lent. I told myself as a challenge that during the 40 days of Lent, I will not smoke weed. And this led to me cooking with cannabis, which was really amazing for my transition because there was something about smoking weed and adding the nicotine, grabba, fonto into my spliff that really had me in a chokehold. And cooking with weed allowed me to explore the art of cooking more and get high at the same time. So that was a great transition for me. And I also stopped because I wanted to feel vibrant and colorful like a flower. If you smoke weed, then you know that when you're high, you feel that. You feel that vibrancy, that color. Everything is just a teensy bit better, or it seems like you're able to connect the dots more clearly. Everything seems more clear when you're high. The movie is funnier and you can see the characters acting. Sometimes I wouldn't even be able to watch certain TV shows when I was high because I would see that the characters were acting and it was just hilarious but also kind of annoying because I want to be in that world. And the food tastes so good when you're high, seemingly. And then when I was not high, I was craving that enhanced experience because it was something that I had been grown used to. And once you feel something good that seems better than soberness, it's going to be something that you continue to do to get that feeling, to chase that high. And so I was chasing highs in other parts of my life as well because I was escaping the things that I had not yet dealt with that had happened to me that really, once I dealt with, would take me to the next level. So because I wanted to feel that vibrancy, that color, I wanted food to taste amazing when I was sober. I wanted the movie to be just as hilarious when I was sober. I said, you know what, I'm gonna stop because when I was a child, I did not smoke weed and everything was amazing. Things were even better, seemingly. Like I felt the full feeling of things as a child when I was not high, even better than when I was high. And so it occurred to me that if I could feel like that when I was a child, then I could feel that again. And also, I didn't start smoking weed consistently until I went to college, which means up until I was 18, I really didn't smoke weed, and things were still fun. Like I had the most fun ever without weed and alcohol. I had such good laughter, the laughter that makes your tummy just clench because you're laughing so hard. I had all those things up until 18, and then when I started smoking weed, things changed. So let me go into a little bit of my history with weed and how and when I started smoking. The first time that I ever smoked weed, I was probably 11, and it was with one of my family members. It was with a couple of my family members, and we were just being young and silly. And the family member who introduced me, shout out to that family member, I love you so much. She was just having fun with my brother and and I don't even think we really smoked or inhaled, because if you do smoke weed, you know that the first time you inhale, or if you haven't smoked in a long time, you're gonna cough. We didn't cough. We just were pretending like, oh my gosh, like we're high. It's like if someone gives you a taste of wine or alcohol, you might feel a little bit drunk, and you're like, oh, especially when you're a child, it's like enhanced. But I don't even think we really got high. We probably got a little secondhand, but that was my first experience, something light. And then the first time that I really got high and remember was with some of my middle school friends, and we were just out in the city one day, and we were in one of my friends' buildings in the stairwell, and they had weed, and we were gonna smoke, right? Just children. I was home for the summer. I went to boarding school, so I always reconnected with my friends in the city, New York City, during the summer, and weed was just something very normal in my life. It was something that I saw family members smoking. It was something that friends would smoke. It was something that I was very familiar with. And so when I got to college and I felt old enough, grown enough, naturally I feel like I took that identity on as something that I saw in people who I saw as grown doing. And like I said, like my family, very big and bright and very audacious. I love my family. And so during family events, cookouts, parties, there's always, weed and alcohol. So seeing these things was super regular. And in college, I really started smoking consistently. I had people teach me how to roll. Once I learned how to roll, it was a wrap. Like me and my friends, we would smoke every night. And really, I think that it was, again, an escape. College can be hard and very stressful, and weed has benefits when it comes to stress and anxiety and depression. It can help all of those things. And so in a way, that was a justification for me to be smoking the way that I did. And it was cool to me, honestly. It was very cool to smoke out of a bong, to make a bong out of a water bottle, to get a bowl and pass it around quickly. Like, it was really fun. I'm gonna be very honest. It was super fun. But that part of my identity had to be let go, because in the beginning, it was very fun, right? Then it becomes a normal thing. It becomes normalized. It doesn't feel the same when you get high. It's just something that you're used to doing, and you need to start smoking more to get higher and higher. And the fun part kind of dissipates, and it's more of just, you smoke weed. You gotta smoke weed, wake and bake, all those things, grabba, you need the grabba. And I just didn't feel that it was aligned with the woman who I saw myself to be. That flower didn't smoke weed. So I took my time in weaning off of the weed and letting that part of my identity go. And another thing that kept me smoking was relationships, like friendships and romantic relationships. When those people smoke, it is easy to do it with them. And then when you are friends with people who don't smoke, you don't usually do it with them. So who you're around definitely plays a role in smoking weed. So another reason why I stopped is because I read an article. There was one night when I was super smacked. I was high, and I was like, okay, if weed is so good, right? It has all these benefits. What's the bad side? What information am I not seeking in order to justify my behavior? And so I sought that information. I looked up the long-term health effects of weed, and I saw that people who smoked weed compared to people who did not smoke weed, and this was on this side, right? There's people who smoke weed consistently. I forgot how often, but it was more than once a month. And then on this side, the people who barely smoke weed either never or once a month, if that. And for the people who did smoke, they saw that over time, there was a decrease in gray matter in their brain. Gray matter is basically brain meat. So if your brain meat is decreasing, your brain is shrinking. No, I said absolutely not. I need all of my brain to be there. I need my brain full, juicy, functioning, bright. I need all the gray matter. So immediately that night, I threw away all the paraphernalia that I had. I threw away everything, all the weed. And I was like, okay, that's it for me. I'm done. I'm not smoking weed. My brain is too important to me. And weed definitely has its benefits. Cannabis has its benefits. But again, for me, it was just something that I didn't align with. I didn't like feeling that attachment to weed, feeling dependent on it for a good experience, or feeling like, man, I'm bored, I'm gonna just smoke right now. Another reason why I stopped smoking weed is because I saw that it affected other parts of my behavior. Part of me stopping weed was taking breaks. And so during those breaks, I was able to observe how I felt, what was happening, right? So one thing that I observed is that when I wasn't smoking weed, I didn't really feel like I needed it. The only times that I would feel that is if I saw some weed or a spliff, if I smelled it. There are certain triggers that will trigger you into a bad habit that you want to stop. Otherwise, a lot of the time, it's really not something that you want to do. That habit that you do is attached to circumstances and smells and different types of things. So remove those triggers and you likely won't do the bad habit anymore. So I observed that I didn't really want to smoke weed. I felt okay, I felt good. Another thing that I observed while I stopped smoking weed is that another thing I observed when I stopped, I had something, guys. I had something so good. Give me one moment. There were so many observations. Like, I observed with fitness, I could do better. Oh, this is what I had. Okay, so one thing that was a connection for me was that when I smoked weed, I would also drink more, want to go out more, partying, clubbing, things like that, making decisions that are kind of naughty. And I would also listen to a lot more secular music. And so when I stopped smoking weed, and I also wanted to be a rapper because I like to freestyle. So that was something that when I was smoking weed, I really wanted to pursue. When I stopped smoking weed, I realized I like to freestyle, but I don't want to really be a rapper, right? Also, the secular music started sounding more and more silly, more like, why am I even listening to this? And I didn't want to drink and go out. It was like, I'm sober right now. I'm kind of good being sober right now. I don't really want to drink, because when I drink, it's like, now I'm loose and now I want to spliff with my drink. And then on top of that, I want the music and I want the club. And it's like all these things that kind of intertwine and interlace with a certain identity that I was really pulling apart from, right? Because I was blooming, I was in bloom, and I had to detach from all those things in order to be this beautiful, full, vibrant, colorful flower. And I had to do that. That's another reason why I stopped smoking weed. So really, it's because it wasn't aligned with who I wanted to be, and it wasn't healthy for my brain. You notice if you smoke weed, you kind of tend to forget things, and it's harder to follow conversation. Depending on the strain and how deep you are into smoking, you can kind of curb that, right? Like, there's some strains that really help you to focus, and there's also a certain level of memory retention that comes with being a pothead, right? Smoking over time, you're able to have those conversations better when you're high, because it becomes almost like part of your identity. You're high all the time. And I found that. So that's another reason why I stopped smoking weed, because I was literally high all the time. You know what song? Gotta stay high all the time. That's literally how I was always wake and bake, spliff. I'm about to eat, let me smoke first, and then give myself a 10-minute in between time so that I get hungry and the food tastes better, right? I'm about to go outside. I have a little capsule, put my spliff in the capsule, and I'm smoking before I leave, right? So whenever I felt sober, it was like, I have a spliff on me, a joint, and now I can smoke to get me back up. And it's like, why do I constantly need something to make me up? Like, absolutely not. I am naturally vibrant. I am naturally animated. I'm naturally silly. I don't need weed to bring that into my life. I can do that on my own. And it was about, for me, taking control. I like having autonomy, period, over my life. I like having control. And when the weed started to control me, when I felt like I needed it constantly, when I was on my breaks and presented with it, and I said yes, even though I didn't really want to, I just gave in and said yes. It was just like, nah, I'm making the decision. And what really solidified it for me was reading that article about how weed affects the brain, because health is so important to me, and the brain is the key to so many things. Your subconscious mind, your conscious mind is the key to so many things. Is really the key to getting where you need to go. And yes, you can smoke weed and do all these things. You can smoke weed and be super successful. Look at Wiz Khalifa. He smokes all the time and he's really happy. And that works for him. For me, it wasn't gonna work because of all the attachments to weed that I had. And the ways that I had witnessed people using it growing up and not being able to detach from it, for me, that was just not something that I wanted to engage in anymore. And so those are the reasons why I stopped smoking weed. Another reason though, which really I didn't think about in the time that I was smoking weed, but you save a lot of money. All that money you spend on weed can be put somewhere else. It can be invested. I've definitely spent so much money on weed that I could have invested, and that's okay. I had to learn from it. So smoking weed definitely gave me a new perspective on life. It definitely opened my mind up in the beginning when I was first feeling those first highs and experiencing life differently. I needed that. Another reason why I stopped smoking weed. And what they say weed is a gateway drug. And I can agree with that depending on the type of person that you are, right? And I can agree with that. If you smoke weed consistently and you identify as someone who smokes weed, it's gonna be a lot easier for you to say yes to other drugs when you're in heightened environments. Like for me, for example, on a spring break trip, it's like, okay, the weed guys, it's maybe not enough. We need to up it. Gotta cut that out, because once you get into other drugs, that's where real addiction comes in, and that's where your life actually can change course. I saw that I could go down that path, and I also saw that I could be a flower, and I said, I'm gonna choose that me. I'm gonna choose the soft me over that one, because I can still do all those things that I wanted to do without the drugs and the harmful things for my body. Again, health is important to me. So yeah, those are the reasons that I stopped smoking weed. I had to become the woman that I am today. And yeah, if you want to know how to stop smoking weed, if this is something that you struggle with, because I struggled for a while. There were months where I would go not smoke and then I would smoke again, and it'd be like, oh, it just totally wasn't worth it. I just eventually have to say, no, this is my last time, right? So if you struggle with that, if you're wanting to stop but you kind of keep getting pulled in, reeled in, check the link in the description and I got you. But other than that, you know, if you enjoy smoking weed and you aren't really concerned about your gray matter and you feel that it works for you, that's so amazing. And I hope you have a blessed day.